What's going on, Lions Den family, and happy New Year 2026. I thank God that we made it over. I thank God. I thank God. I thank God. We got the first installment of our Bible studies for this year, and we're going to be coming from Luke chapter 15, and we're going to be talking about the prodigal son. We're going to be talking about the prodigal son because I feel like that this is very, very, very important for us to learn a very important message that's within this passage of scripture. But before we go ahead and get started, I need y'all to hit that like button, that comment button, and subscribe. Subscribe. Let's keep growing. Let's keep doing what God, has instructed us to do and put in our hearts to do. I look forward to a greater year. 2025 was such a great year, but I look forward towards 2026 being an even greater year. And I hope that y'all are looking for the same thing in Jesus' name. But let's go ahead and get started.
Walk it like I talk it, yeah, I walk it. Yeah. Flowers never grow without some water.
All right, so the reason why I want to talk about the prodigal son and bring in the year talking about this is because I feel like for a lot of us, I feel like 2025 was a year of us reevaluating a lot of things that we thought that we were ready for, that we thought we were ready or prepared to handle, that if we were humble enough or humbled ourselves enough, that we came to the realization that we were not at the place to where we can handle the things that God had in store for us. And I know for me personally, I can speak on it and I can say that there were some ways that I still needed to grow out of, that there's a lot of learning I still had to do. There's a lot of humility that I still had to partake in, right? And to become the man that I am today and to be in a position to where God can trust me with the things that he has in store, even for my life in this new year. And so I want to encourage you, even with your life and with your journey, that it's never a bad thing when you have to step back and do some reevaluating, right? It's always a good thing because what it does is that it allows you a moment to be truthful with yourself. It allows you a moment, to really dive deep and to look within and to see where you still need healing, where you still need growth, where you still need change, deliverance, and so many other things. So let's get into the prodigal son. In Luke chapter 15, starting at verse 11, I'll read out of the Amplified version. It states and it says that then he said, a certain man had two sons. The younger of them inappropriately said to his father, give me the share of the property that falls to me. So he divided the estate between them. And I always find this word inappropriate fascinating when it comes to this passage because Jesus is describing this basically to his disciples in a parable, and he's letting them know that there can be times in our lives where we can inappropriately ask for something, right? And the reason why this word inappropriate stands out is because it's not the proper time, right? We're not mature enough. We're not in a place where we have grown to where we can handle the thing that we are asking for, right? And so it was a very inappropriate time for him to ask for this very thing. And there has been times in our lives where we have done it, even as I just stated about with me, with my journey. I've asked God for certain things that he had to reveal to me that you're not ready for it, or you weren't ready for it, or you couldn't handle it. And he had to show me that about myself, right? But I like to say all the time, God, he's never in the business of embarrassing us, right? He'll allow us to have some things, or he'll allow some things to play out just to show us, look, if I give it to you too soon, or if I give it to you the way you are, you're going to destroy it, right? You're going to ruin what it is that I want to give to you, that I want to do for you, right? So this was an inappropriate time for this son to ask for his share of what his father had in store for him and his brother. And so it goes on and it says in verse 13, it says, a few days later, the younger son gathered together everything that he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he wasted his fortune in reckless and immoral living, meaning that it took him literally no time. It literally took him no time to ruin everything that he had. Another thing, there's sometimes where we're inappropriately pouring our all into something that God has not called us to pour our all into, right? There's sometimes we have to learn how to scale it back. We have to learn how to just give a little here or to give a little there, right? And only fully give our all to God. That's the only place we should really be pouring our all into, right? Unless God calls us to add to certain other areas of our lives, right? But it says he took everything he had. This is how it goes to show you why the inappropriate word was used, because he wasn't even thinking, right? When and a lot of times when we want things so bad, right? When we want things to happen so bad, we want God to move, we want God to show up, right? We want God to deliver, on certain things. We don't care what it looks like. We don't care where we are in life. We're not thinking about those things. We're not thinking about, if we can mess this up, or what if this goes wrong, or whatever the case. We don't think about those things, and we don't consider those things, right? And we're seeing it in his behavior. He wasn't considering any of this. All he was looking to do was to get his fortune and to get from underneath his father's house and to go out and live the way that he wanted to live. And so it says that only a few days went by. And it says that he traveled to a distant country, meaning that he got from underneath the covering that he was under. He got from underneath the wisdom. He got from underneath the guidance. He got from underneath where God was at and where God was really blessing him. And a lot of times we think that we can really live a life that is going to be blessed, or that's going to be so abundant or great outside of the will of God. And this goes to show us that it's not true. He chose to separate himself from where God was at, where God was moving. See, God was moving in his father's house, but he chose to separate himself by going to a distant country. And so it says that, and there he wasted his fortune in reckless and immoral living. Now, when he had spent everything, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to do without and be in need. He did not know that up ahead would be a famine. And there's a lot of things that we don't know. And that's why we have to trust God. So when God sometimes has us at a standstill, we have to understand that it's for a reason. We have to understand that God does everything with purpose, that God knows our tomorrow even before we step in it. God knows our next month even before we arrive to it. God knows our next year even before we can celebrate it. God knows it. He sees it. He understands all things. And so that's why God moves us the way that he does. But see, sometimes when you're impatient, when you're a person that you need it now, when you're like J.G. Wentworth, it's my money and I need it now. Whenever you have that mindset that you can't be patient or you can't wait on God, it will cause you to go ahead of God and to do things that God isn't calling you to do, or to live in places that God isn't calling you to live, or to allow yourself to distance yourself when God is saying to stay together, when God is saying to move this way or to go this way or to go that route. It will cause you to go outside of the will of God. And so this son, he found himself, he got all that he wanted because he asked for it, right? But in him asking again, where was the consideration? Where was the things that he learned in his father's house? This goes to show you, you can literally sit under wisdom. You can literally sit under God's covering. You can sit around where experience is. You can sit around all of that and not learn a thing, because this goes to show us that he didn't learn anything in his father's house. This goes to show us that he didn't take anything in that he either saw or either heard from his father. Because if he did, then he would have known how to go about handling the things that he had. But yet he went and he lived reckless. He lived immoral. And now he finds himself in this distant country away from his father's house, in this place where now a severe famine has hit. And now he finds himself without anything, and he finds himself in need. When I look back over my past year, when I look back over 2025, I thank God that God put me in a place where I was in need. And it's not that, it's so much that, I was in need of anything materialistic or monetary. I was in need of God. I was in need of his strength. I was in need of his word. I was in need of prayer. I was in need of his guidance. I was in need of his spirit. I was in need of God, because you can have everything in the world. You can have money. You can have whatever. None of that means anything if you don't have God, right? And so God had to sit me down in my life and show me, hey, you need me. You think that it's going to happen going this way or going about it this route. No, this is the only way that it's going to happen, is if you have me with you, if you take me with you, if you allow me to do what I want to do in your life. And so I had to learn how to surrender to God. I had to learn how to humble myself. I had to learn how to see God. I had to learn how to understand, and still learning each and every day how to understand that God's plan will always be greater than anything that we can try to write up for ourselves, that we can try to make happen for ourselves. And so God had to sit me down, and he gave me a moment of reflection in my life, to where I had to see what I was doing and how it was not only hurting or affecting me, but how it was hurting and affecting the people around me, my family, or how it was hurting or affecting the plan and the will that God has for my life, my future. And so it says that now, when he has spent everything, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to do without and be in need. So he went and forced himself on one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. Look at that. Now he had to find himself in a place where he was begging and pleading and forcing himself upon people, forcing himself into people's lives to help me, or to help get me out of this severe famine, or help me to understand what's going on. He had to force himself on somebody else who was too enduring a famine. So now what he's doing is that he's adding weight to somebody else's plate that already has enough weight on their plate. And that's the thing that happens when we don't consider the outcome of the things that we're asking God for. God, if there is something I'm asking you for that I'm not prepared for, that I'm not ready for, don't give it to me too soon. Don't give it to me until I find myself in a place, or to where you find me in a place where I am ready, where you deem me as ready, where you deem me as fit to handle the things that you have in store for me. I don't want it too soon. I don't want it if I'm gonna mess it up. I don't want it if I'm not ready for it, if I won't be able to handle it, if I won't be able to honor it. I don't want it, because I've seen what I can do, even with a glimpse of the things that you gave me when I thought I was ready. I don't want to think that I'm ready. I want to know that I'm ready. I want you to know that I'm ready. And when God knows that we're ready, then he'll give us the desires of our heart. The Bible says that when a man's ways pleases God, that means that you have grown to a place where God can trust you. That means that you have found yourself in a place where God says you're obedient enough, where God says that you can handle it, where God says that you won't ruin it, where God says that he can give it to you, and he know that you'll steward over it well. That's when you found yourself in a place where God says, okay, I can give it to you. And that's where I'm looking to be. That's what this year is all about for me. It's growing into that place, is being in that place to where I can honor God with everything that he has for me. And so it says that he forced himself on one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. He went from living this life of peace, if you think about it, because he ain't have no worries when he was living in his father's house. He didn't have no worries when he was under the covering that was there over his father's house. He ain't have no worries. He didn't have no concerns. He wasn't thinking about a famine. He didn't have to go and force himself on his dad. He didn't have to go and feed pigs. He didn't have to do any of that when he was in his father's house. So now he finds himself in this place that he has never been in before. And what happens when you find yourself in uncharted territory? What happens when you find yourself in a position that you don't know how to handle because you have never been in that position before? And you're in that position alone, no family, without God, but God allowing you to sit in that because this is what you asked for. So in order for you to understand and not find yourself back in this place again, I'm going to allow you to endure this because this is what you thought you needed. This is what you thought you wanted. This is what you thought you were ready for. And so it goes on and it says, so he went and forced himself. It says in verse 16, he would have gladly eaten the carob pods that the pigs were eating, but they could not satisfy his hunger. And no one was giving anything to him. That is a dangerous place to find yourself in, where God won't even allow anybody to help you, where God would allow you to sit in a season of your life based upon your choices and your decisions. And nobody's able to come to your rescue. Nobody's able to help you. Nobody's able to lend you a helping hand. Nobody's able to feed you. Nobody's able to step in and to help you out or to bring you out of that place. That's a dangerous place. I thank God that even in all that he put me through and all that he allowed me to go through, that I put myself through, that he didn't put me in this place, that he allowed me to still be prayed for, that he allowed me to still be supported, that he allowed me to still see his love and his grace and his mercy and his compassion. I thank God. But God had to let him know, and there's a reason why God allowed this to happen, because God saw his heart posture. God saw that he wasn't humbled yet. None of this was humbling him yet, because he probably thinking, oh, this will probably pass. This will probably be over. Yeah, this might be like a bump in the road. He probably had so many different thoughts going on, but God saw that his heart had yet to be humbled. And so it says that he would have gladly eaten the carob, the pods that the pigs were eating, but they could not satisfy his hunger. I know that feeling all too well. Trying to get into things, trying to be a part of things, trying to be with someone, trying to be in places that even being in those places that I just still didn't feel satisfied, that I still didn't feel good, that I still didn't feel like that I was just joyful or happy or whatever the case may be. I know what that feels like, to be in those places and still not be satisfied, to eat and still be hungry, to sleep and still be restless. And so it says that in verse 17, but when he finally came to his senses, this is what happens when you finally humble yourself. Because I was in pride. Let me tell you, 2025, I was in pride. I was operating in so much pride, so much arrogance, so much anger, so much bitterness, so many dark places. And I was in those places. And God had to allow me to sit in those places until he said, until you humble yourself, then I'll bring you out. So now this son, now he's understanding life a little bit more, because now he's coming to his senses. Now he's waking up. And sometimes it's sad that it takes certain things to happen in our lives in order for us to wake up, in order for us, as they used to say back in the day, to wake up and smell the coffee. Sometimes it takes life experiences. Sometimes it takes us going through things. Sometimes it takes God allowing us to fall and hit rock bottom before we can get up, before we can come to our senses, before we can humble ourselves and realize that it ain't in us, but it's all in God. Sometimes it takes those life experiences. So I don't take away from anything that I experienced last year, because everything I experienced last year has prepared me for the blessings and for the overflow. My God, they go shande bededo sha and they go siaraba shana. Just how it's preparing you for everything that God is getting ready to do in your life this year. If you've come to that moment of clarity, if you come to that moment of realizing that I need to sit down and get some things in order, that I needed to use 2025 they go shanda to get myself back aligned with God, to get myself in a place to where I was out of me and I was more into God, to where I was no longer being led by me, but now I'm being led by God, to where I had to sit back and reevaluate some things, reevaluate my thinking, reevaluate my picking, my choosing, reevaluate something, the way that I was going, because I thought it was right. The Bible tells me that the way of a man seems right, but the end thereof is death. I thank God for those moments, because it's because of those moments that I am here today. It's because of those moments that I can teach and preach this word to you today. It's because of those moments, that I can sit here, enjoy it in peace and in humility, knowing that God is in control and that I don't have to worry about anything. that I don't have to be concerned about anything, that all I got to do is just trust him and believe him and obey him, and everything that he has for me is going to fall in line. Everything that he has for you is going to fall in line. But first, you got to come to your senses. First, you got to humble yourself. And so it says, but when he finally came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have more than enough food while I'm dying here of hunger? See, pride won't let you see how good you got it with God. Pride won't let you understand how good God's way is as opposed to your own. Because you may not fully see it, because you may not understand it or comprehend it. You feel a certain way about it. Well, God, why I gotta do this one? And I'm saying that's stupid. Why I gotta go through that? Why I got okay? You want me to take a loop here, but then you want me to go left? Why? A lot of times we judge the way that God operates and move rather than trying to understand it, rather than allowing ourselves to be subject to it and to just allow ourselves to obey him and move the way that he wants us to move, because we serve an all wise God who's all seeing and all knowing. He knows why he's telling you to go right, then left, and then make a U-turn, and then go up, and then go down, and then sit there for 5 seconds, and then go over there for 10. He knows why he's telling you to do that, because there are some things that you don't see. There's some things that you don't hear. There's some things that you don't know that God knows, that only God knows, and that only God can see. So it don't matter if it looks like he has you going in a maze. He has you doing it for a reason. So just because it don't make sense to you and you think that you got it all figured out and you think that you got all the answers, it'll cause you to buck up against God, and it'll cause you to make you to it'll put you in such a place of pride to where you basically saying to God, I got this. You could take the back seat. You could sit down. I know what I'm doing. I'm here to let you know it ain't the way to go. It ain't the way to go. It ain't the way to operate. And so it says when he finally came, he started to realize, wait, how good the men at my father's house, how they got enough food to eat, and how they over there eating good. And I'm over here struggling. I'm over here starving. I'm over here considering eating what the pigs are eating. What's wrong with me? And then it goes on and says in verse 18, I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. It hit him. He couldn't see this until he first got into a place of submission, until he first got into a place of humility, until he first got into a place to where he got rid of the pride, the ego, to where he got rid of the self-righteousness, to where he got rid of his plans and his thoughts and his vision for his life. And he started to realize, God, I was good all along. God, you had me covered, my echo shanda all by siaraba shanda all along. You had me covered. Everything that I needed, you had it stored up for me. Everything that I needed, you provided. Every way that I needed you, you made a way. You showed up. But because I thought I needed what was over here, I wasn't satisfied with what I had over there. And so it goes on and it says that I will get up and go to my father's house, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Just treat me like one of your hired men. He was even humble to the point to where he thought to even go say to his father, I'm not even worthy of being your son. You can treat me like the hired help. Treat me like one of your workers. That's how much he realized that he messed up. And when you never see a problem in the things that you do, you'll never see a reason to fix what it is that you're doing. And so it says that, so he got up and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, and this is what I love so much about God, because in this scenario, the Father, he represents God. How we are as the lost sons and daughters that go about our way, that are the prodigal sons and daughters that think that we got it all figured out and think that we know what we're doing. And we go out and we lose our lives, and then we got to come back home to God. We got to come back to our senses and realize who our Abba Father is. We got to come back to a place, and we got to admit to ourselves the truth of the matter is that without God, I'm lost. And so he finds himself in this place to where now he's humble enough because he got over himself. And now he's headed back to his father's house, because one thing we know as children of God is that we can always come home because God is always there with open arms to welcome us and to receive us back into the kingdom. But he's not going to force you. It's going to take you making up your mind. It's going to take you making a decision today as you have crossed over into 2026. It's going to take you making up your mind to say that heaven is where I belong. With my Father is where I belong. And I know I was lost 2025 and all the years prior to that. But in 2026, I'm coming back home. 2026, I'm waking up. 2026, I'm coming back to my senses. 2026, I'm going back to my Father's house. I'm getting back before the throne. I'm getting back into my prayer closet. I'm getting back into my word. I'm getting back into my relationship with God. I'm getting back to building what I was building with God. But this time, it's going to be different. And so it says that his father saw him and was moved with compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him. So before he can even get to his father's house, his father was there waiting for him. Because see, his father knew one thing the day he left. His father knew he'll be back. And that's the same thing that God is betting about our souls, is that when we feel the need to rebel, you're my son, you're my daughter, you'll be back. And when you're ready to come back, I'll welcome you with open arms. And it says that the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and in your sight I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants quickly, bring out the best robe for the guest of honor. Look at him. He was willing to go back to be a help, to be a worker. And his father honored him as the guest of honor. God can do things differently when you humble yourself. God can cause things to turn in your favor when you humble yourself. Ask me how I know. I'm a living witness. I'm proof. God will take you from such a low mindset to a royal mindset when you humble yourself. So it says that the son said to his father, but it says his father said to his servants quickly, bring out the best robe for the guest of honor, put it on him and give him a ring for his hand and sandals for his feet, and bring the fattened calf and slaughter it, and let us invite everyone and feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was as good as dead and is alive again. He was lost and has been found. So they began to celebrate. The Bible says heaven rejoices over that one soul. Heaven is rejoicing when we choose to make our mind up, when we turn from our evil ways, when we turn from pride and arrogancy and ego, when we turn from self-righteousness, when we turn from darkness and we turn back to the light, when we turn back to God. Heaven rejoices. And so it says, now the older son was in the field, and when he returned and approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. So he summoned one of the servants and began asking what this celebration meant. And he said to him, your brother has come home, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound. But the elder brother became angry and deeply resentful and was not willing to go in. And his father came out and began pleading with him. But he said to his father, look, these many years I have served you, and I have never neglected nor disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me so much as a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this other son of yours arrived, who has devoured your estate with immoral women, you slaughtered that fattened calf for him. The father said to him, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It takes a change of perspective because he's looking at it the wrong way. And sometimes everybody ain't going to celebrate your turnaround. Everybody ain't going to celebrate your come to moment. Everybody ain't going to celebrate your rebirth. Everybody ain't going to celebrate it because everybody ain't going to be glad about it because they got the wrong perspective. Just like how we judge people that lose their way, and then it seems like they get their life back on track, and it seems like God just takes them from the bottom, just shoots them up and skyrockets them. instead of understanding and looking at it in a sense of thank God that that soul was saved, that he wasn't killed, that he wasn't gone mentally, that he didn't fully lose his way, but yet he was able to make it back home. Thank God when God saves a soul, when someone's life turns around. Celebrate. Celebrate those that celebrate. Be happy. Be glad. Don't use this as a moment to be envious or jealous. Don't use this as a moment to be mad or angry. Don't use this as a moment to say, well, I was the one that was here all the time. Well, I was the one that was helping you. But yet you see, there's a reason why. And his father had to bring him to that moment of seeing it. Look, you don't have a need for anything because you've been with me all along. So anything that is mine is yours. All you need to do is just receive it. All you need to do is accept it. All you need to do is just enjoy it. And it says, but it was fitting to celebrate and rejoice for his brother. This brother of yours was as good as dead and has begun to live. He was lost and had been found. Thank God for all the lost souls that will be found on this year. Thank God for all the lost souls that will be found on this year. I celebrate you. I celebrate what God is getting ready to do in your life. I celebrate the turnaround. I celebrate the changes. I celebrate the promotions, the elevations. I celebrate the newness. I celebrate the open doors. I celebrate even the closed doors because that has a meaning as well. I celebrate every yes and every no. I celebrate you on this year because God is getting ready to turn it in our favor. He's doing it for us. But first, you got to humble yourself. First, you got to turn from every wicked way. First, you got to come to your senses and realize that everything that you're going to ever have that's good in this life, you can only obtain it in God. God bless y'all. God keep y'all. God cover y'all, strengthen y'all, shield y'all, save y'all, and protect y'all throughout this year. I look forward to growing even the more. I look forward to more content. I look forward to more Bible studies. I look forward to just more ways that God will grow this ministry. Thank God. I thank God for the Lions Den, and I thank God for all the love and the support. Again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as I always like to say, be encouraged, get inspired, and stay uplifted. Till next time, God bless.
Wisdom is for free, but yet it's overpriced. And I never seen success happen overnight.